What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, man, I'm going to go through something. Lennox Lewis, legendary fighter, one of the best heavyweights ever to put on a pair of gloves. Definitely have him inside my top 10 heavyweights of all time. Talked about Alexander Povetkin and how Alexander Povetkin needs to retire. Reviews the performance of Alexander Povetkin and Anthony Joshua in that fight. And I think it's pretty interesting, man, because it's pretty much what I said about the fight, man. Not that it matters that I said it about the fight, but hey, that's what I thought, man. And it's good to hear somebody like Lennox Lewis, a Hall of Fame heavyweight champion, saw things similarly. And it's probably going to tick off some Anthony Joshua fans that Lennox Lewis is, Lennox Lewis is just a straight shooter, man. He'll say what he thinks. I don't think that anybody can really call Lennox Lewis biased or envious or jealous of Anthony Joshua or a hater of Alexander Povetkin or any of that other stuff. No, he's just a Hall of Fame heavyweight champion, the last unified undisputed champion in boxing. In heavyweight boxing, and a guy that really did. Man, I didn't really like too much when he first started. When I first saw Lennox Lewis, but just his skills in the ring and the stances that he's taken outside the ring since he retired, man, really won me over as a fan. And so let me cover what he says and give you my thoughts about it. But first, I want to thank everybody that's tuning into the channel. Thanks you to everybody that if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos. And also thank you to everybody that supports the channel by watching the commercials that are in the videos. That definitely helps support the cause that the channel is meant to raise funds for. Also, thank you to everybody that supports in Venmo, Patreon, and the live streams and the super chats and the live streams. And also, I just want to also say this again. Thank you to all the mature, grown-up boxing fans that come to the channel. It is really enjoyable to have boxing conversations with people that do not behave like 12-year-olds. Who have to feel like they've got to insult somebody for their opinion or try to embarrass people and go through all that nonsense that should have been left behind when you graduated from high school. But fortunately, man, we got a lot of very, very mature boxing fans that come to the channel. If you're a mature boxing fan, and by that I mean somebody that can express their opinion without insulting people or try to degrade people or call people dishonest or whatever, you're more than welcome on the channel. If you're not that type of person, more than likely, you're going to get blocked. But thank you very much for coming. Now, with that said, let me go through this article. Lennox Lewis believes Alexander Povetkin should retire. In the opinion of former undisputed heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis, 39-year-old Alexander Povetkin should call it a day and retire from boxing. Last week, Povetkin was knocked out in 7 rounds by the WBA, WBO, IBO, and IBF heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua. At this stage in his career, securing one world title fight will be extremely tough. Povetkin holds a record of 34 wins, 24 of which he won by knockout, and only 2 defeats. The Russian fighter is also a 2004 Olympic gold medal winner, a former world champion, and 2-time European champion. Against Joshua, Povetkin started off quickly and soon found himself out of steam, says Lewis. Povetkin started the fight too active. By the middle of the fight, he ran out of gas, Lewis said. Although, of course, he made a couple of good attacks, but this was not enough because Joshua calmly stepped in and did his job. Anthony can be beaten by someone who was well prepared physically, not for half the fight, but for 12 rounds. As for Povetkin, I think he needs to finish his career. He would become an excellent ambassador for the sports and boxing. Sometimes if you see me skip a word, that's because the quote is off. This says an excellent ambassador for sports and boxing. Another former world champion and Hall of Famer, Costa Zoo, felt Povetkin had only one game plan in place with no plan B. The fight once The fight proved once again that youth will win in most situations, Zeus said. There were many moments in the fight when Povetkin demonstrated a good level and coped with his work perfectly. Alexander had a certain plan prepared, but he only had one. He did not have a backup plan for the fight. Povetkin got off to a good start, went through some good moments, but Joshua managed to adapt, and Alexander could not reorganize. And that's about it. Essentially, what Lennox Lewis is saying is that Alexander Povetkin was too old. He's too old, and he ran out of gas. Now, I wonder why Alexander Povetkin could have been running out of gas in this fight and not run out of gas in previous fights. Could it have something to do with the fact that he wasn't doping? That's something that Lennox Lewis didn't say in this. I was listening to Victor Conti talk about the positive drug test by Billy Joe Saunders. And he talked about UCAD, or I say it's UCAD, and who did WADA, WADA. And what he said about this was that the testing for WADA had not been as stringent as people claim that it was because they have an extensive amount of testing done for in-fight drug testing, which is from the day that the fight is announced and the contract signed until the fight happens, and I think some blood and urine that happens afterwards. And they're out of testing, out of fight testing, which is the year-round testing, which includes only a small amount of drugs that are being tested for. So their testing protocols were, to paraphrase, if there's 30 drugs that they were testing for in fight testing, out of competition testing, they might only test for 7. So 23 of the drugs that you could take weren't illegal when you're not preparing for a fight, but they're the type of drugs that you can have the benefits of having used them after you cycle off of them, right? And I think that the drug that Billy Joe Saunders was using actually got out of your system within 24 hours. And he also said that he thought that that might have led to why he was acting so wild and doing a bunch of stupid crap, because it has these mild psychotic side effects. Anyway, maybe that's something to do with why Alexander Povetkin got gassed out after a few rounds of punching, but he didn't before. We'll never know, but clearly Alexander Povetkin at that age and his lack of endurance really did come into play, and that's why he lost the fight. Now, what Lennox Lewis says about Anthony Joshua in this is that this dude can be beaten by somebody that has a plan and can fight over 12 rounds. Doesn't seem like Lennox Lewis thinks that Anthony Joshua is some incredible world beater, and I don't either. I think that Anthony Joshua is very beatable, and he's not just beatable by Deontay Wilder. I think he's beatable by Huey Fury. If there's one guy other than Deontay Wilder leave Deontay Wilder's name out of these, and Luis Ortiz, because Luis Ortiz didn't have that fatigue issue either. He said that he got a little tired against Deontay Wilder, but his power and all that stuff carried through 10 rounds. But maybe he could say maybe that would be a case against. It's definitely going to be the case against Luis Ortiz if Luis Ortiz doesn't get a fight with Anthony Joshua for the next 3 years, which he's not gonna. But the guy that I think could beat Anthony Joshua, that's not Deontay Wilder, is Huey Fury. I think can beat Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I don't think Anthony Joshua would have a very good time with Huey Fury. Tyson Fury, the closer we're getting to the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, the less I'm really, it's just like, God, I know he's a very, very talented fighter, but he's just so far out of shape. He got so far out of shape. He was so The fact that he was using cocaine. When Layman Brewster said that, Layman Brewster also was a guy that knocked out, for people who don't know, was a guy that knocked out Vladimir Klitschko some years back. And then I think he was in turn knocked out by Vitaly Klitschko, or beaten by Vitaly Klitschko. When he started talking about that, man, it just made me feel like, wow, you're right. He's coming overseas. He got probably he might have been 200 pounds overweight. God, he was so huge. Doing cocaine, that big layoff, and Deontay Wilder being so active, that really could cause him a lot of problems. But his cousin, Hughie Fury, has been active, has never really gotten out of shape. And I think that I think he's got the style to cause a lot of problems for Anthony Joshua. If Anthony Joshua cannot land that, I don't even see Anthony Joshua beating Hughie Fury. Unless he lands, just like with anybody, unless Anthony Joshua really lands something big on him. He's at a height disadvantage with Hughie Fury, I do believe. I believe he's at a length. I think Hughie Fury is taller. I'm pretty sure that he's longer. Or if not, actually, I think that they're about the same height. And I think Anthony Joshua might have a little longer reach. But just athleticism, speed, and size-wise, man, I just think I think Anthony Joshua would have a hard time with Hughie Fury. He might be able to beat Hughie Fury, but, I mean, he's in for the fight of his life against Hughie Fury, because Hughie Fury is not just going to stand there. And he's long enough to box. He's got a nice jab. So, that's a fight that if it was a perfect world, that's a fight that I would like to see, is Anthony Joshua versus Hughie Fury. But, it is what it is. I like what Lennox Lewis had to say. Alexander Povetkin was too long on the tooth. He didn't have the endurance, and he wasn't prepared to go 12 rounds. And I think it has something to do with the fact that he was clean. That's just my thought. I think it had the fact that he wasn't able to train with performance enhancing drugs and cycle off of them. He's probably tested up the wazoo for that fight, and then as a result, he just gassed out. And then he got knocked out. And as far as whether or not Anthony Joshua is beatable by a guy who's got a 12-round plan, absolutely he is. I'm saying it again, there's nothing. Anthony Joshua is a big, strong guy. He's a big, strong guy that hits hard and is fundamentally sound. Other than that, I don't see that there's anything exceptionally special about Anthony Joshua. Now, that's a big anything, right? Because there's not a lot of guys who are that big, who are that strong, right? And who are technically sound. But, I'm not terribly impressed with him, especially off of his last three performances. And we'll see. But more than likely, we're not going to see him in against anybody that would have the ability to beat him. Because in my opinion, he's being protected. I know there's all this talk about him saying he wants Deontay Wilder and I'm looking for him on all that stuff. To me is a bunch of PR crap, because if he wanted the fight, that fight could have been made. He could have offered him 60. When Deontay Wilder said he'd take 60-40, he could have gave him 60-40 and the fight could have been on, but he didn't want to do it. And now Deontay Wilder's moved on. And I think Deontay Wilder's right for having moved on, because it doesn't make sense for him to continue to chase after a guy that clearly doesn't want to fight him. And, it is what it is. If you think that Anthony Joshua really wants to fight him, hey, man, I appreciate your opinion, and respectfully, I disagree. And it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.